Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt something off? Nobody says anything. The conversation sounds normal. People are smiling. Maybe someone's even laughing. But somehow your brain is whispering, something's wrong here. You can't explain it logically. You just feel it. Maybe someone across the table seems a little too quiet. Maybe two friends aren't making eye contact with each other. Maybe the mood feels heavier than it should. And suddenly you're scanning the room, trying to decode what's going on. If that sounds familiar, you might be someone who notices energy changes in a room. Now, when people hear that phrase, reading the energy, they often imagine something mystical, like it's some supernatural sixth sense. But the truth is actually far more fascinating and far more human, because what you're sensing isn't magic. It's psychology. Your brain is doing something incredibly sophisticated. It's collecting tiny social signals, micro-expressions, tone shifts, posture changes, pauses in conversation, and stitching them together into one emotional picture. Most people see the room. You feel it. And if you've ever wondered why you're like this, the answer usually goes deeper than personality. It often traces back to how your brain learned to survive in social environments. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine two people walking into the same party. Same music, same people, same room. One person grabs a drink, starts talking, laughs loudly, and barely notices anything else. They're in the moment. The other person walks in and within seconds notices three things. Two people just stopped talking when someone else entered. Someone in the corner looks tense. And there's a subtle awkwardness between two friends who normally get along. Nothing obvious happened. No big argument. No dramatic scene. But somehow, the atmosphere shifted. That second person might not even realize how quickly their brain is analyzing all this. It's automatic. Psychologists sometimes describe this ability as social attunement. Your brain is highly tuned to the emotional signals of other people. Picks up information that many people miss. And interestingly, this isn't always something you consciously learned. In many cases, it developed early in life. Think about childhood environments. If someone grows up in a home where emotions are predictable and openly communicated, they don't need to constantly scan for subtle shifts. Feelings are obvious, safe, expressed clearly. But if someone grows up in an environment where emotions are unpredictable, things change. Maybe arguments happen suddenly. Maybe tension filled the room before anyone said a word. Maybe people avoided talking about their feelings, but the atmosphere still carried them. In those environments, a child's brain adapts. It learns to read the room quickly, not because it's fun, because it's useful. Because if you can detect tension early, you can prepare yourself. You can stay quiet. You can stay calm. You can avoid conflict. Over time, this skill becomes second nature. Your brain becomes a pattern recognition machine. You notice the tiny pause before someone answers a question. You notice when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. You notice when the rhythm of a conversation suddenly changes. And without realizing it, your brain is constantly asking, what's really going on here? This ability is closely connected to something psychologists call emotional intelligence. But here's where it gets interesting. High emotional intelligence doesn't always feel like a superpower. Sometimes it feels like exhaustion. Because when you're constantly aware of emotional shifts, your brain rarely turns off. You're not just experiencing your own emotions. You're sensing everyone else's too. Picture emotional awareness like a radio antenna. Most people pick up the strongest signals. Big emotions, obvious moods. But if your antenna is highly sensitive, you pick up everything. The whispers, the static, the hidden frequencies no one else seems to notice. That can make you incredibly perceptive, but it can also make social environments overwhelming. Think about being in a room where tension slowly builds between two people, even though nobody says anything out loud. Many people might ignore it, but if you're tuned into emotional shifts, you feel it immediately. Your brain starts analyzing. Did something happen earlier? Did someone say something wrong? Is there unresolved conflict here? And suddenly you're carrying emotional information that nobody even asked you to hold. This is why people who notice energy changes often feel drained after social events. It's not necessarily the number of people. It's the number of emotional signals. Your brain has been running social analysis software in the background the entire time. Now here's another interesting twist. People who notice energy changes in a room are often the same people others feel comfortable opening up to. Have you ever experienced this? Someone you barely know suddenly tells you something personal. A coworker starts venting about their life. A friend says, "I don't know why, but I feel like I can talk to you." This happens because emotional awareness creates a sense of psychological safety. When someone feels seen, even subconsciously, they relax. Your attentive body language, your calm presence, your ability to notice subtle shifts, it signals to their brain that you're paying attention. And humans crave being understood. But there's a quiet challenge that comes with this role. When you're the person who reads emotional energy, you often become the emotional translator in social groups. You're the one who notices when someone feels left out. You're the one who senses when someone's mood suddenly drops. You're the one who gently changes the topic before a conversation turns into an argument. In many ways, you become the emotional stabilizer of the group. And while that role can be meaningful, it can also become heavy. Because sometimes you feel responsible for emotional balance even when it's not your job. You might try to smooth over tension. You might worry about how everyone else feels. You might carry emotional information that nobody else even noticed. And if you're not careful, that sensitivity can slowly turn into emotional overload. Here's something important to understand. Noticing emotional energy doesn't mean you have to manage it. This is a lesson many highly attuned people eventually learn. Your awareness is a gift, but responsibility is optional. Just because you sense tension doesn't mean you have to fix it. Just because you understand someone's emotions doesn't mean you have to absorb them. Think of emotional awareness like standing near the ocean. You can see the waves. You can hear them. You can understand their rhythm. But you don't have to dive into every single one. Learning that boundary can change everything. Because the ability to read emotional energy is actually a powerful form of intelligence. Anthropologists believe this kind of social sensitivity helped humans survive in early tribes. Detecting subtle emotional signals could prevent conflicts, strengthen bonds, and maintain group stability. In other words, your brain might be wired for connection. But connection works best when it includes yourself too. If you're someone who notices energy shifts in a room, you might spend a lot of time observing others. But here's a quiet question worth asking. How often do you check in with your own emotional state? Not the room's energy. Yours. Because people who are highly aware of others sometimes forget to notice their own internal signals. Your brain might be great at reading faces, tone, posture, and mood, but your own feelings deserve the same attention. And when you balance those two, awareness of others and awareness of yourself, that's when emotional intelligence becomes something beautiful instead of exhausting. You stop carrying every emotional ripple in the room. You simply observe it. You understand it. And then you choose what belongs to you and what doesn't. That's the real power of this ability. Not just noticing energy, but understanding where it ends and where you begin. So if you've ever felt like the person who senses tension before anyone speaks, if you've ever walked into a room and immediately picked up on an emotional shift, if you've ever wondered why you notice things others don't, there's nothing strange about you. Your brain is simply tuned to human behavior in a deeper way. And the more you understand that sensitivity, the more you can use it wisely instead of letting it drain you. Now I'm curious about something. Are you someone who notices energy changes the moment you enter a room? Or have you ever realized later that your instincts about a situation were right all along? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, consider subscribing. Because sometimes the smallest signals reveal the biggest truths about how our minds work.